First things first, PowerShell 7 updates. We've had a bunch of them. Oh, the Teams window just switched over. So now we've got the live transcript going. Okay, great. Minimize. There we go. Since last time, we've had PowerShell 7.2 Preview 8, and I am going to try and do the notes at the same time, but I may need to do a little bit of back and forth here until we get over to the next thing. But this came out about a month ago, so we should have another preview coming pretty soon. I don't know if any of the maintainers can speak specifically to when that will be shipping out, but I imagine fairly soon, given the 1 month ago preview. This will be followed up by release candidates, likely in September and October. That will be followed again by a GA roughly in November. So tentative date. This will be dependent on how these RCs go, right? So if we find any kind of major problems in any of the RCs, we do reserve the right to kind of delay the GA out a little further. But our goal is to sim ship with .NET. I think last time with 7.1 when we GA'd, we were within 24 hours of them or something like that. So that's the goal, because we do want to maximize that support lifecycle for folks that are needing enterprise support. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about the next thing here, which is the 7.0 and 7.1 branches will be going out of support as a result. So 7.2 is our next LTS, and 7.0 was our last LTS. Will be supported until, I believe, February 2022. I don't know when the 7.1 branch is going out of support, but I think it's around the same time, with the logic there being that we support ourselves for as long as the underlying .NET platform is supported. And so as .NET Core 3.1 goes out of support with 7.0, 7.0 will go out of support as well. So you will want to keep an eye on 7.2 as kind of the LTS to update to as we hit that date. Similarly, we just shipped, on that note, a 7.0.7 and 7.1.4, I think is right. I want to make sure I got that right. Those are just servicing updates. You should update to those just as a general rule. There may be some security aspect there, but it doesn't look like it. So it looks like the .NET SDK is bumped to a version. Maybe they have a security update in there, but just always be updating to these servicing updates as a general rule of thumb. Update to these. On that note, I'm going to switch over a little bit to Amber to talk about recent PowerShell Gallery outage that we had. Amber, are you on the call?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Great. Okay. So yeah, we had an outage on the gallery on Tuesday for almost 3 hours. And we'll have a official post-mortem or the root cause for that up on the status page of the gallery, probably by the end of the week. But the quick gist of it is that the gallery just has a huge amount of technical debt right now. And we've been working on slowly cleaning that up and getting it into a state that's easily maintainable and, of course, always available. So I just wanted to say thank you for your patience with these growing pains. Fortunately, these issues are not going to be here forever, and we'll do our best to make changes very slowly and carefully avoid any potential side effects in the future. And of course, if you ever run into any issues, please open up an issue on the Gallery GitHub page so that we can address it as quickly as possible.
And that's
all I got.
That's github.com PowerShell Gallery.
PowerShell Gallery. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Amber. Yeah, I know that this is Not ideal for anybody, obviously. Folks depend on the PowerShell gallery for CI and that sort of thing. But I do really appreciate folks' patience as well. We've had a lot of good conversation around this on Twitter, and just appreciate folks being very understanding that this is something we're spending a lot of time on and trying to get right. And Amber and company are doing their best here, and we should see some improvements going forward. So. Thank you so much, Amber. Similarly, we just shipped a major update to PowerShellGet 3.0. There is a ton of stuff in this one. Unum, are you on the call here?
Yep, and I can go over that. So earlier last week, we did a release for PowerShellGet v3. We specifically released the preview version 3.0.11, and we also have a blog post up for that, which I can drop in the chat. Basically, this preview release puts us one step closer to being feature complete for PowerShellGet 3.0, and we hope to kind of have an RC out for that maybe by the end of the year, or basically when we take in feedback from this one, we'll kind of see accordingly when that puts us for the RC. But we do have some major changes, and to start off with, we are handling paths that don't exist more gracefully, and we are also doing that for Linux also, so we just have better support for Windows and Linux when it comes to paths that don't exist. We are also creating a default repository store if it doesn't exist on your machine. So if you're trying to do register PS resource repository, or sorry, not register, but if you're trying to install a package from the PowerShell gallery, but that repository is not registered on your machine, it will actually go and register that repository by default, which was something that the community had requested. And then aside from that, our commandlets are also outputting concrete return types. So the PS resource commandlets such as find, install, save, and publish are going to be outputting a PS resource info type object. And you can pipe that to FL star to see the properties such as, name, version, repository, location. And there's just an easier way of doing that now. And then similarly, the PS resource repository commandlets are going to be outputting a PS resource repository info object. So it just is another easier way to see what members you're dealing with. And then for the repository commandlets, we're also supporting relative paths. And that is just making it easier on Linux and Windows. Yep. Yeah, I also wanted to say that we also, during this refactor, or during this release, we basically refactored the PowerShellGet module. It added more testing, and we also addressed a lot of user issues that were created by the community. And we've had a great response from the community. A lot of people have installed the preview version and tried it out and given us feedback, and that is really helping us. So if you have the opportunity and you can install that preview version and just give us your feedback, that'll be really helpful. And please feel free to create issues on the repository as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is, I pasted the blog post in here and was just kind of skimming through, and there's a ton of stuff in this release. So this is definitely a blog post you want to check out. It's going to have the info for installing as well. I was trying to just go ahead and paste that in here.
Yeah, and towards the end of the call, if we have time, I could also just do a short demo to kind of show off some of the stuff I mentioned. Yeah, but I think the blog post also does a good job of showing that off.
Yeah, definitely. I know. Yeah, we were mentioning before, our agenda is pretty packed. So we're gonna, if you want to do like a 2-minute real quick, is that okay, or would you rather wait till the end and see if we have extra time?
I'd rather wait till the end if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, totally.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, so then, I wanted to get the GitHub link in here as well. So file any issues you find. For sure, these folks are watching these repos like a hawk for all these issues coming in. So definitely now is the time to get those in before we solidify more of the PowerShell v3 interface. This is definitely one that we got to make sure we get right, because so many of you depend on PowerShellGet for so it's absolutely critical that the shape of these these types that Unum's talking about that we solidified, like PS resource info, are really the right shapes, because we're going to be stuck with them for a long time, and hopefully be very happy about it. Apologies, my machine's starting to chug a little bit here, but Jim, are you ready to go with code coverage stuff?
I am.
And feel free to take over if you want to demonstrate any of that.
I will be doing that in just a bit. Some of you may know that at the beginning of the project, we were providing code coverage numbers on our tests, but some of you may not know that the only tools that were available for us at the time were Windows, and a test run took between 16 and 18 hours because of the tools that we had available. However, fortunately, time and technology have moved on, and we now have a number of very excellent tools that are available to us, and they take the form of global tools for .NET. So let me share my screen here for just a second. You can actually install a couple of tools that we use now, or I'm using now. One is called coverlet.console, and the other one is called the report generator. And this allows us now to much more easily collect code coverage. And I should be really clear about what code coverage I'm talking about. I'm talking about assembly level code coverage, not script level code coverage. And that's what these tools do. And I have written a little script that makes it about that easy to gather code coverage and in this particular case, it will generate code coverage in this example for PowerShellGet. And you just run it, it will go off and do a bunch of stuff. Usually it runs a little bit slower than that because I'm actually not doing anything there. When it's done, you will get an actual output that describes what the code coverage looks like. And then finally, it will create a report, a more visualization report, to make things a little bit easier to understand. And I'll share what that looks like. So now you can have a coverage that allows you to inspect the various areas of code that are being covered by our tests, and you can then go through the files and determine what's getting covered and what's not getting covered. So we're really and the plan is to include this in our CI system on our daily builds, so we'll be able to gather coverage information cross-platform, and then provide those numbers, and you can watch our progress as we increase our test coverage. I don't want to take too much time. I will probably even release this script as a script on the gallery once it's been hardened up a little bit. We're still kind of going through testing to make sure it works under different circumstances. But so far it runs on Linux, Mac, Windows, and WSL. So that's kind of what's going on there. And that's it.
That's awesome, Jim. Yeah, very cool. That's coverlet, right? Did I get that right?
That's correct. Yes. The question, it is called coverlet, and it's a relatively recent .NET project. I've been following it for the last few years, and it's fine, and it's gotten to a point where it's very useful. It only reports on the .NET side of the solution. It only reports the question from Carl. It reports code coverage for assemblies, but I'm running our pester tests to make that to hit those lines. So it reports only on the assembly coverage, but it's using our PowerShell testing infrastructure. So when I've run it in against PowerShell, the main repo, it's testing all of the assemblies that we ship as part of PowerShell.
Thank you for clarifying that. Appreciate it. Yeah, these are awesome. We definitely will be tracking this, and this is definitely an approach where we like to kind of use data. I think we have an idea, probably qualitatively, of where we have some testing gaps, but having this number as well is just another input to kind of help us figure out where we might have some blind spots.
Correct.
Awesome. Moving along here, because we've got plenty of stuff. Thank you so much, Jim. We've got Paul's got some updates on Secret Management 1.1, which just GA'd, as well as some stuff about Secret Store. Paul, are you with us here?
Yeah.
Were you going to be doing a demo, or did you just want to talk to the release?
Yeah, just talking to the release. Sorry, I'm just
no worries.
I don't know if the camera's turned on or not. So anyway, just trying to turn on the camera and the sound. So yeah, just real quickly. I can't remember if we talked about this last time or not. I guess maybe we didn't, but we did do a Secret Management 1.1 GA release. Actually, before that, we've had 2 preview releases of the version 1.1. There's a preview and then preview 2. And so there's blog articles about it already. So I think I'll just go ahead and paste links to those blog articles if you're interested in getting more information about that. The previews have been around since I think we started in March, so they've been around for a while. We made some fixes, updates to 1.1 and preview 2, and then we didn't see anything that we needed to update after that. And so we just went ahead and rolled the second preview into a GA release. So that's released now up on PowerShell Gallery. And I won't get into the changes. I just pasted a link if you want to find more information about what has changed. And if you have any questions, be sure and ask. So that was Secret Management and Secret Store. We did do a release just recently for a version 1.0.3. This just fixes some bugs. There were some bugs that we thought were gnarly enough where we just wanted to go ahead and push a release. Basically, there was race conditions. So there's like a random problem when updating on Secret Store password or changing the Secret Store configuration from password to no password. That would fail. Not only would it fail, but you'd get a weird error. The actual error that described the failure wasn't displayed correctly. So both those problems, race condition and the error display, has been fixed in the 1.03. And then secondly, also, there's been some reports of random data corruption, store corruption during configuration changes that I hadn't been able to repro, and then I finally did get a chance to repro it. So that's been fixed as well. So that solves that data corruption problem, which was random. But it was just kind of weird. What occasionally you couldn't access secret store data after making some sort of configuration change. So that's been fixed in 1.0.3, and that's up on PowerShell Gallery as well. I just also wanted to mention sometimes people have been unaware that the Secret Store, which is one of the extension vaults that we support and we ship for Secret Management, and it's cross-platform, is configurable. I mean, when you first install it, it's configured in the most secure state, which is to require a password. And sometimes using a password, is kind of annoying. It's kind of a pain in the neck. You can configure it without using the password. You have less security, basically relying on security of the underlying OS file system, but also the fact that it's configured to be interactive, because most people, want to play with it and configure it, and they use the commandlets and use it interactively. But it's also designed to be used in a non-interactive mode for standalone scripts, so you can actually configure it so that there's no user prompting or anything like that. So and there's commandlets, there's ways to provide the password without being prompted for it, without having to type it in at a console. You can provide the password as a secure string. So I just wanted to mention that it is relatively flexible, and if you want to look at Secret Store for use in your maybe in your some kind of DevOps work with standalone scripts, you can use it for that. You can configure it for that, and you can look at the GitHub repo for Secret Store if you want to find more information about how you can configure it. But also you can just do a get command on the Secret Store module and just look at the commands, and they're all commands for configuring. You're finding out what the configuration is of the Secret Store and for configuring the Secret Store. So that's all I wanted to mention on secret management and Secret Store. If there's any questions, feel free to ping me here, or of course you can always create an issue to ask questions or comment on the GitHub repo for either of those modules.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Paul. Yeah, and I also wanted to mention, we were having a good conversation the other day about some really good threads on Reddit. I don't have them handy right now, but if you look over the last couple of weeks, or even just search for secret management or credentials across the PowerShell subreddit, there were some really good discussions with folks, all kinds of different patterns, for how they're storing credentials in different kinds of environments. This is definitely something where, there's not a one-size-fits-all solution for everybody, depending on how you're storing credentials in your environment or what your scenario is. Like Paul was saying, whether you're, interactively using this thing or using it in automation, there's a lot of different ways you can leverage it. So definitely check that out. Awesome. Moving along, we've got Travis to talk about Microsoft Update for PowerShell 7. So this is installing and updating on Windows.
I'm going to quickly show the UI, so I'm going to share my screen if I can get the window to share. I want to talk about a couple of things. The update timing on the updates. After we release to GitHub, there'll be about a 1 to 2 week delay, and the updates will always show up as a quality update. And on certain exceptions, we may update those updates later to be a security update. Also in Preview 8, we added this setup GUI, which allows you during the MSI to opt into Microsoft Update. And also, we allowed you to opt out of our updates specifically. There's the GUI for that. That's about it.
Yeah, so this is intended to make updating on Windows significantly easier by basically plugging directly into the Microsoft Update system that delivers updates for non-Windows components via Windows Update. So this is pretty cool. I mean, I just magically now get updates for the previews, and then when 7.2 GAs, this is going to be there for that as well, and we'll deploy security updates there, like Travis was saying. Greg is asking Travis, what are the command line switches for opting in? So whatever those the command line switches associated are with those two checkboxes.
So the first one is use moo use_moo equals 1, all caps, and the second one is enable _moo equals 1, and we already have a issue open to document these. Nope, these are properties, not switches.
I got it wrong.
They follow MSI syntax.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
The use mu is required even if you're using WSUS. Sorry about the naming, but we named that before we thought about the WSUS and SCCM scenarios. So if you want these updates to apply through any of those channels, use mu equals 1.
Right. So basically, the first one is the the flag that just says, yeah, if I'm doing some kind of update, I want to get the PowerShell 7.1. The second one is what's actually flipping Microsoft Update on globally on your machine. Is that accurate?
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. And thank you, Sean, for dropping all these links in the chat here. So there is a documentation incoming for these MSI switches. So thank you, Travis. Really appreciate it. Switch back over here. Andy, are you ready to go with updates on the VS Code extension?
I am. Hey, I'm on a speaker. Can y'all hear me? Is this working okay?
Working good enough. Great.
Great. Okay, I'm going to share my screen over here, I hope. Let me see. Screen. Just screen. All right. So we shipped an August update earlier this month for the VS Code extension. There was a blog post if you're interested, and I'll get this link dropped in the chat. I want to highlight that like a lot of the work, pretty much all of the work has kind of been behind the scenes. So I know the extension hasn't looked like it has changed a whole lot, but we've prepared ourselves to be able to make the changes that we want to make. So we've practically completed this huge CI/CD infrastructure project for the extension, where we now actually test the editor services on a larger matrix of machines, and we have a fully automated release process, which I go into great detail on in the blog post. But essentially it means we can now, for the most part, click a button and make a new release happen and get that release directly uploaded to the marketplace directly from the build machines, which is nice and secure and compliant. There was a large number of tasks that we did through here. I mean, I could scroll this all day long, at least 36 issues, all of which has meant massive improvements to our ability to actually like incrementally make change, like that whole continuous integration and continuous delivery philosophy. So that has been the huge update happening in the background. And I also would like to share that we are planning to do a release a preview release. I mean, maybe today, possibly tomorrow, maybe Monday. In the next few business days, I will get another release out to the preview channel of the extension that will come with a lot of stability fixes for the debugger. So we tracked down a huge number of issues to our threading. Not necessarily our threading, but also the threading of the OmniSharp library that I've talked about in the past. It's the base library that actually is the language server protocol implementation of a server that we then run on top of. I had to go and fix threading issues within there. There's a large PR that I made over into their project that not only fixed the threading issues so that when you're debugging a script that uses system Windows Forms, it now works. Well, it will work as soon as the extension is updated on the preview channel there. But not only was this fixed, I actually found a way to make sure we don't make these mistakes again. It's a really simple mistake that can cause that kind of asynchronous sort of debugging to fail. It gets into the nitty-gritty of .NET details, but essentially when you await a task, if you don't configure that awaition on every single line of code where you await a task, you can cause things to not wake back up. There's nowadays, fortunately, some really great .NET analyzers, and I was able to turn on a build error and not just a warning, so that us developers, both of the PowerShell editor services and of the OmniSharp library that we depend on, we can't make that mistake anymore. The compilers will stop us from doing it. So hopefully this bug won't show back up in the future. And then on top of that, I want to point out that we're not just fixing bugs anymore. When we fix bugs, we're writing regression tests. So we have a huge regression test here that actually re-implements that scenario of the editor attempting to debug some PowerShell script that uses, say, system Windows Forms. And right now this would hang if you run this in the current extension, or if you run this on the build pipeline, it hangs, and that's the bug. It shouldn't hang. It should just let you debug it. We have successfully been able to test this with the latest OmniSharp update, which was 0.19.3 last night. It did completely fix the issues. I also provided like a dev build to a few users who confirmed that this fixed, how many issues did I link here? 4 of them. So this is a fix, and it's guaranteed to be fixed going into the future, which was one of the things when I took over as maintainer identified, we would fix things and then they would end up broken again. This bug in particular, this exact bug actually was fixed sometime last year, but because we didn't have like the compiler stopping us from making the same mistake again, and because we didn't have a regression test in place, it showed back up. And I don't like it when bugs show back up. We need to fix bugs once and only once. One of the other ones that we fixed recently was the huge issue where, if you were an advanced user and installed the latest preview of PS Readline, things would just break on you. And we didn't really have, we had like a half dozen issues opened up on us. We fixed that also in the latest release, or maybe in the preview release. I don't know, read the blog post, so that we only use the bundled extensions, but it didn't come with just the fix. We actually have a regression test as well for that. So that PowerShell editor services can actually make sure it integrates with PS Readline in all of those scenarios. So yeah, I think some really great stuff is happening. Be on the lookout for a preview release in the next few business days, like I said, and then that will turn into a stable release soon after that. I've kind of changed our model where I just do a preview release, get your feedback, which I really need and is great because we are still working. There's a huge testing project. Most of our tests were turned off sometime in the last couple of years, and we're trying to turn these back on. Right now, I rely on all of you to test this and let me know when it's stable by using that preview channel. And when it looks stable, well, then that's what I do. I take the preview extension and release it to the stable channel. So yeah, I hope y'all are excited for a more stable extension and for a lot of those features that we sort of had and were testing to actually come back and be on brought online with enough tests around them that we can keep them online and that they're actually guaranteed to keep working for you. So I think that's about it. Oh, one last thing. We have pretty new icons now. So this is the extension. Let me show you in the editor. We've updated our icons for the stable on the left-hand side and the preview on the right-hand side to actually match those same icons that we use in for PowerShell 7. This is great because previously when you searched for PowerShell over in the marketplace on VS Code, there were 3 different extensions all with the same one icon here, which is rather old and got used by other people. So we're now the PowerShell extension with the right PowerShell icon. And if you also are looking for the preview one, it's got that nice, pretty preview. So yeah, I know, not a huge change right there, a little cosmetic, but I really liked to be able to make that change. So that is, I think that wraps it up. That's what I wanted to share. Oh, honestly, I'm literally just waiting for this package to update from 19.3 to 19.4. This is Omnisharp, and for the 1.20 release of PowerShell Script Analyzer, which I think is going to get talked about in this meeting. When those updates roll out, those are going to go into the preview, and that's when I'm going to release the preview extension. So there we go. Okay, now I'm done. That's everything. Thanks so much. And does anyone have questions? Any good? I don't know. I'm open.
Thank you so much, Andy. That's a great pivot over to Rob, who's going to talk about the script analyzer updates.
Fantastic.
Rob, do we have you on the call here?
There I am.
There you are.
Yes. So we, we haven't been doing, any huge work in Script Analyzer recently, but we had some interest. Actually had an internal contributor who wanted to make some enhancements to Script Analyzer to help, I think, with with validation within Windows for their build and test infrastructure. And so we work with them to make that happen. And as a side note, this is a classic case where an internal contributor really, we treat them pretty much like an external contributor. They open a PR and we try to keep everything in GitHub and make sure that we follow exactly the same process as with anybody else. Anyway, so there's a new parameter on Invoke Script Analyzer which allows you to include both suppressed and non-suppressed diagnostics, and that is for tools that are downstream of Script Analyzer that need to know about both for report generation. So in this case, they built an integration for a format called Serif, which I can't remember what that stands for, but it's like a standard linting and error reporting format, and we've worked together to bring that integration about. And so we'll be releasing a new script analyzer version, I think 1.20, in the coming week or so. We don't expect that it's going to be anything drastically different to the previous version, but we're also intending to get it into the next VS Code extension release as well.
Thanks, Rob. And do you have any thoughts you wanted to express kind of on future PSSA? I don't know if there's anything that folks want to drop in the chat here that they're really looking for from Script Analyzer, but I know, despite the kind of decreased investment, it's still a place where we're, looking to potentially invest at some point in the future. So,
yeah, I mean, we have actually seen kind of a bit of an uptick in interest in Script Analyzer recently. Joel Bennett recently opened a really awesome looking PR to add a new rule. We've had there's another PR opened overnight by another internal team totally elsewhere inside Microsoft, because they are looking to migrate functionality from an older linter of theirs, an internal one, to Script Analyzer, both so that they can be on modern tooling, but also so that the world can benefit from their sort of existing concepts and rules. So, obviously, for most people, we anticipate that Script Analyzer is being used via the editor, via VS Code, through its diagnostics reporting panel. But if you are using it in another way, or if there's something you'd like to see in Script Analyzer, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter or through the GitHub repo, because we'd love to know how you're using it and what direction you want to take it in. And even though we, mostly, we haven't been spending a huge amount of time on feature work in it ourselves, it is actively maintained, and we do take contributions. It's actually pretty easy to contribute to. It's pretty straightforward as software goes compared to things like PowerShell or the VS Code extension. So we'd love to take contributions. We get new rule ideas on a weekly basis. But so there's lots of stuff that's labeled up for grabs.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. Really appreciate it. Definitely do check out that repo. It is very active, and we definitely want to keep an eye on any kind of ideas that folks have where we want to make a more significant investment. Switching gears a little bit over to Sean, who's got some updates, really cool updates to show off on the documentation. It's going to make some stuff a lot more clear for folks, hopefully. Sean, do we have you on the call?
Yes.
Awesome.
So hi, I'm Sean, your friendly neighborhood docs guy. Chase Wilson and I are the two writers, and I'm going to share a couple things here. Sorry. There we go. And let me, I'll put the link in the chat afterwards. But I want to remind folks that each month I update the, I suggest you go to the community update page, and I update what's new in docs here. And past few months, we've had some new articles get published. A whole article about different ways of doing argument completion and tab expansions. There's a bunch of new features coming in 7.2 for that. In June, we had about intrinsic members and Booleans added. Booleans one talks about all the different ways that type conversion and coercion work with Booleans. Lots of good information there. And there's 2 new articles this month that'll be at the end of the month that'll be published. So about PS custom object, explains the difference between PS object and PS custom object type accelerators and some of the pitfalls. And new to 7.2 is this about ANSI terminals that talks about all the new ANSI escape support in PowerShell 7.2 all in one place finally. So, and I also wanted to point out, sort of as a follow-up to Paul's discussion about sequence management, at the top of our docs page, we have this these links, and the utilities module link takes you to this page here, and this is where we have documentation for the sequence management modules. So you can get the commandlet reference right here. And that's all I had.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sean. I know I don't want to get everybody too hyped as well, but I'm definitely very excited for the updates you're making to the install docs. I don't know if you felt comfortable maybe showing that off real quick. I know that that's going to definitely address a lot of concerns for some folks. I know it's not totally ready to go yet, but
sure. Let me share my screen again. And
sorry, I just the color coded emoji. They get me really hyped.
Yeah. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with our existing documentation, and I know it's hard to navigate. The information here is not as up to date as we'd like it to be, and I've been working on a total refactor of this. This will be coming out for the 7.2 release, and maybe before, depending how soon we can get this all reviewed. But bear with me while I manipulate the URLs. Oh. Here we go. So now this is, there's a separate article for each distribution. So you can go directly to the distribution you're using to get the information. This overview article lists all of the distributions, and there will be a table like this for each distribution that shows what we support, what version of PowerShell is supported in what version of that operating system. So all of this information in one place, hopefully making things clearer. And
yeah, you're getting some applause from the peanut gallery here, and I definitely, I mean, it's for sure. I'm excited about this. It's going to make things easier for me.
Yeah, and we're doing this across the board with all of our install docs. So more to come.
Thank you so much. Sorry for putting you on the spot. I just I know that was a cool update there. So, we do have, I forgot to paste the link here at the beginning, but we do have this thread for leaving question and answer. I know Justin Grody had a demo here that got a couple hearts. Justin, do you think you got time to do that demo? And if folks have questions in the meantime for Q&A, maybe at the very end here, we can take those in chat or in this GitHub issue as we go. Do we have Justin on the call by any chance? I'm looking at the list here. Oh, it looks like we don't have Justin today. So we may have missed our chance for that demo. That's okay. But we are still definitely open for Q&A here. So if anybody has any questions, I know there was one issue that got dropped in the chat that someone was asking about. 14084 strict import scope and function signature semantics. I'm not familiar with this issue. Dropping this link for people interested to provide feedback for PSConf-EU. Thank you so much, Gail. We did have a great time at PSConf-EU. Also do want to drop a link here. We are going to be hopefully speaking at the PDC Conf. So this is a PowerShell DevOps and Cloud conference that's taking place. It's going to be digital. So definitely check that one out if you're interested in hearing us talk more about some PowerShell stuff. Thank you, Pursoon. Fun languages speed test competition. We're in the 49th place right now. Can someone make a faster PowerShell script? Oh, cool. Very cool. I don't know if anyone from the team was able to peek at that 14084. It looks like, let's see if it's been getting updated at all. Looks like it hasn't been. Oh, Rob reported no new developments here. Rob, do you remember this issue by any chance, or have any kind of context on this that you can provide with regards to Script Analyzer?
Which issue is this?
This is 14084. If you scroll up a little bit in the chat, it's in there. But see if there were any other questions. Andy's dog needs a walk.
Can I just grab the mic, or?
Yeah. Go for it, Carl. Yeah.
All right. So I'm the requester of this this ticket, and indeed Rob Holt replied already. So he stated that it is quite hard to build in this kind of analysis. I really look forward to see the PowerShell language improved on this part, so that it becomes comparable to how TypeScript gets analyzed, right? So with strict imports, without any magic modules that just appear, and also some kind of analysis on function calls. You regularly bounce into bugs we create, and of course Rob has a point that it is us creating the bugs, not an analyzer. But the analyzer can obviously help us detecting these kind of issues where we do not apply the correct function parameters. So that's our context.
Yeah, I've certainly done some thinking along these lines. It's a large amount of work that requires several assumptions to be built in at this analyzer level. Because PowerShell, for example, you can do something like create a file with a PSM1 extension on one line and then import it as a module on the next line. It's perfectly legal to do. It's totally dynamic language, right? So analysis is impossible in general for things like that. So you have to sort of like throw out the possibility of that. You have to exclude that as a possibility in order for static analysis to really work, to be able to say this command isn't going to be available on line 5. And there's like some capability to do that, but it's interesting. I've been looking at this again in respect to the next, the current internal contributors who want to migrate their internal tooling to Script Analyzer, because their internal tooling made all of these assumptions about what types things would be and what variables would be available and so on and so on. That works in the context of their project, but it doesn't work in general. Even parameter binding is not something you can always guarantee is going to work the same way until runtime, because it can depend on things like the type of the pipeline variable. So basically you have to restrict your script very carefully. But yeah, I mean, a static strict mode is conceivable, and like TypeScript is a good model for it insofar as it doesn't exist at runtime. So like something that can basically just look over your script and decide whether or not it should be able to run later on. But it's certainly not like, it's a discussion that we've had on and off for a long time, but we haven't had like really significant demand for it, and the size of the project required would be quite large. I mean, look at how big TypeScript is, right? It's got like scores of people working on it, and it's actually a compilation step in front of JavaScript. It's its own language, and it's something that generates JavaScript as an output. And so not only is that like, does that speak to the scale of the problem we're trying to solve, but also the world tolerates minified JavaScript as a compile target. But if you do the same with PowerShell, you're almost certainly going to trigger antivirus. Just as a like another thought along those lines. So listen, I'm not excluding the possibility. I'm just saying that like in terms of cost versus return on investment and like demand for the feature, it's something I'd love to be able to to take the time to work on, but we're not. There's no planned investment there at the moment. It's certainly the kind of thing where a proof of concept could generate momentum if that were like something you were really passionate about.
Thanks for your elaborate comment. Very much appreciated.
Thanks, folks. There was one other question on here, and good stuff in the chat. I think Justin Grody had a take on this as well. And Joel's, I don't know if this is a joke or not, but a strict shell would, as a new transpiling language, would kind of be that. But like Rob said, it would be a pretty significant investment. Gilbert had a question for the PowerShellGet folks about an issue requesting system-wide policy setting essentially for configuring PS repositories, and whether that's something that would be on the docket for 3.0. Looking at the issue, it is tagged vnext. Sorry, just go ahead and take over. Yeah, Thank you. Please.
Sure. I was going to say thanks for bringing that issue up, Gilbert. We were looking through that when we were going through the preview 11 items we wanted to get done, and we weren't able to fit into 3.0.11's preview release. But yes, we're going to try to get this done for 3.0. I'm not yet sure about the 3.0.12 preview, but we're going to definitely try it out. I think especially now that the repository commandlets, the PS resource repository commandlets have been refactored and we have added scope and refactor that for other commandlets, I don't think it should be too much of an issue to do. So we're definitely going to prioritize that scenario and supporting it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
But definitely, the commitment is that milestone label. So do keep an eye on that, we always reserve the right for things to potentially slip, and we do our best there. But yeah, it definitely looks like there's some good demand in this issue for for getting this one done. Rob's got some more comments here on the shell, but I think that just about covers everything for today. Not seeing any more questions in the chat. Sorry, Justin, your work emergency. We'll do your demo next time here. Glad you were able to make the last few minutes. Appreciate it. Shameless plug, check out the Pester VS Code test adapter preview. Check it out for sure. And I think that's it. So thank you folks so much for joining today. Really appreciate it. And we will see you next time. Third Thursday of the month for the next PowerShell community call. Thanks so much, folks.